Hello and welcome back to the chicken pen. Today we're going to be talking about chicken language. Everyone knows that hens cluck and cockerels crow, but there's a lot more to it, so join me. Hi, my name's Fiona. It's ironic that today I'm going to be talking about chicken language when we've got Lennox in the background crowing away because she can't get into the coop to lay her egg. It's just one example of the different types of calls that chickens make. A lot of their language is non-verbal and it's actually shown via gestures. There is the old saying of pecking order, and it actually comes about from chickens. And that's just one of the many examples I'm going to show you. So let's start with the flock in general and adult hens and how they communicate with each other. This is the image of a well-established flock. It's very relaxed and it's very calm. However, flock language is primarily based around a very strict hierarchical structure. You might have used the phrase the pecking order to describe an organisation you're part of or even your workplace, but its origins come directly from the chicken world. It's a literal description of what I think is the most important chicken language, and it's a body language. It decides who controls the food, the shelter, the prime egg laying spots. There are lots of vocal sounds that I'll describe for you, but chickens communicate many of their needs through body language. This is a practical example. The dark ginger coloured chicken that you can see is called Gannet, and she's very much head of the flock. The grey chickens are only 17 weeks old at this point, and they're still finding their place in the hierarchy. Gannet doesn't tolerate the youngsters eating all of the treats, so she imposes the pecking order by pecking them lightly on the head. It's not an attack, and it doesn't cause injury, but it is enough to teach the youngsters their place. As the youngsters learn, no physical contact is needed. At 20 weeks old, as the slow motion film shows, Gannet no longer needs to gently peck the youngsters, but instead she simply lunges in their direction with no intention of hitting them. Trust me, if she meant to, she would. Or even just look in their direction, and the youngsters know to get out of the way. Chickens learn their place in the pecking order at a very early age. As they grow, they practice posturing and dominance poses. Here, a group of young Orpingtons, roughly 4 weeks old, are practicing that body language. They're standing tall and appearing to have staring matches, seeing who blinks first. Notice there is absolutely no physical contact in this practice. Once established, these are the noises you can expect to hear from your flock. These noises indicate a very calm, settled and contented group. Everyone knows that cockerels are noisy, but laying hens are too. They are very vocal when they've laid an egg. This is Gannet again, and she's demonstrating that I have laid an egg call. It's designed to call other hens in the flock to lay their eggs in exactly the same location. This is to quickly create a clutch of eggs for a broody hen to sit on. Hens can only lay a maximum of 1 egg per day, and this is the quickest way to reduce the risk from predators destroying the nest and to safeguard the next generation. This next section is all about cockerels. Cockerels have a role to be head of the flock, and being head of the flock, they've got to find water, find food, keep the flock safe, and keep the next generation going. They use lots of different gestures and lots of different calls to make that happen. So let me show you some examples. Let's look at how cockerels indicate that they've found food. First, they make a clucking type noise to call the hens, and this can then be accompanied by a body language action which is picking up and dropping the food to indicate what can be eaten. This is one of our cockerels called Doodle, and he's demonstrating both the noises and the actions. cockerels' next role is to keep the flock safe. When they see imminent danger, they make this noise to ensure the flock is on high alert. Let's have a look at that again. Cockerels will also display a warning to potential threats by standing high and flapping their wings. They'll use this as well to indicate to the flock that they are in control. Arguably the biggest role for the cockerel is to safeguard the next generation of chickens, and to do this they need to fertilise their hens' eggs. The cockerel needs to make himself seem the strongest and the largest to ensure that the hen is more likely to accept them. They achieve this by puffing themselves up, holding out their wings, and then the chase begins. Sometimes it can be quite comical. Sometimes it's a bit more subtle, and the cockerel does a little dance which involves standing on one leg, scratching at the ground with the other foot, and turning in a circle around the hen whilst holding a wing out. That's truly acrobatic for a large chicken, and it really is chicken foreplay. Of course, we can't end the segment on cockerel language without a little crowing. There's a lot of debate and research about why cockerels crow, but personally I think it's a territorial announcement. Behind me you'll see Frankie in the shelter with her young chicks, and that's what this next section is all about. It's about broody hens and how they communicate. Broody hens have a whole separate set of calls because what they want to do is sit on eggs for a significant period of time to incubate them and make sure that no other hen comes onto the nest. They then want to raise those chicks in safety, and if your broody hen happens to be one of those hens at the bottom of the hierarchy who's normally bullied, that's not going to cut it anymore. So they may become more aggressive and have a different set of calls to make sure that their chicks are fed and can grow to full size. Let me show you some examples. How can you tell if your hen is broody? Well, they communicate this in two ways. The first way is they puff themselves up when approached by other chickens, quite like the cockerels when they want to mate. The second is that they make a constant noise, which is a low boom 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 noise. They also signal that they want to raise a clutch by spending a lot of time in the coop, and this is Rachel returning to her enclosed space that she feels safe in to raise her clutch. The low, consistent booming cluck is also used by the broody hen to communicate with their chicks. Here's Ginger with her newly hatched set. She's making that noise constantly. This means that the chick can start to recognise the noise and by association recognise Ginger. So here's a practical example of that recognition of the booming noise. This is Gannet, who's sheltering her chicks under her. It starts to rain, so she moves back to the coop, making that booming noise, and the chicks follow. Broody hens need to signal where food is to the chicks, and guess which noise they use? Yes, it's the same noise that the cockerels use to signal that they've found food for the hens. Finally, we circle right back to the beginning, where the adults gently teach the chicks their place in the pecking order. I promise no chicks were injured in this clip. It's a gentle tap and it's cheeping in surprise. It's all part of the chick's education. I hope you found that useful and it's helped you understand a little bit more about the language and the calls of the chickens in your flock. If you have enjoyed it, take a moment to give me a thumbs up below. If you're not a subscriber, take a minute to subscribe and hit the notifications icon and you hear of any new videos as soon as they're published. If you have a question for me, leave it in the comments section and I'll get back to you and answer it as soon as I possibly can. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time.